Hey guys, S&P cannot close in positive territory, it looks like. Really made a run for it, though.
Yeah, I mean, certainly trying, right? But what a kind of limpy day. Having said that, there are some stocks that we've definitely seen kind of move big time to the upside or to the downside. We'll get into that in just a moment, but it just feels like, Tim, a market looking for direction.
Yeah, maybe earnings after the bell will provide a little direction. A check on the consumer with Nike. We get some tech with Micron. We get an idea of what people are sending and transports with FedEx. I don't know, though.
There's not a whole lot of conviction out there, and you see it reflected in the price action across equities and across all the other asset classes. And of course, April 2nd seems to be the date looming over everyone's head. People seem to think that we're going to get some clarity. I don't know if that's the case.
No, we talked to Mike Wilson at Morgan Stanley and Mark Newton of Fundstrat, and both of them were saying maybe we kind of troughed here, bottomed out. Time to kind of bring money back into the U.S. from that way. Maybe tech, maybe financials. That was kind of interesting.
On the negative side, we talked with Peter Atwater over at William & Mary, and he has his own investment firm. And we talked to him about maybe is the U.S. market becoming uninvestable, which is, he kind of said yes, or possibly. So
really?
Yeah.
In favor of Europe? Other markets?
Yeah, other markets. Like time to look outside. Yeah.
Anything but.
One of the possibilities he sees.
One of the possibilities. All right, guys, there it is. The closing bell. Womp womp. Could not get there. S&P closing down by about 0.2%. Tried to make a run into positive territory earlier in the day. Just could not hold it. The Nasdaq off by about 0.4%. But off the lows of the session there, the Dow is pretty much flat. But guys, it's kind of across the board. The Russell underperforming, mid caps underperforming, and the equal weighted down by about the same as the S&P guys.
Micron is out. I'm just going to kind of run to those earnings just because they just crossed the Bloomberg terminal.
Go for it.
Certainly one. Second quarter adjusted EPS, guys, $1.56. That's a beat. $1.43 is what the street was looking for. Let me go to the outlook because that's what the street always cares about. Micron sees third quarter adjusted revenue of $8.6 billion to $9 billion. So that is above the street estimate of $8.55 billion. You are seeing the stock up about 2.5% in the aftermarket. Going back to the last quarter, second quarter adjusted revenue, that came in better than what the street was expecting, $8.05 billion versus $7.91 billion. And second quarter adjusted gross margin, 37.9%, a little bit light. Street was looking for 38.4%. But again, it looks like, guys, investors focusing on that outlook, also saying on track for significantly improved profitability. So investors seem to like what they are getting from the company. All right, let's go back to the market, guys, because as we said, it does feel like a market that is looking for something to give it some clearer direction at this point. Having said that, most names in the S&P 500, Scarlet, lower today, 318 to the downside, 178 to the upside.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP, which looks at the 11 sectors in the S&P 500. A real mixed bag here, but what's notable is that none of the industries moved more than 0.6%. Your best performers, energy, utilities, gaining about 0.4%. Financials, barely higher by 0.2%. The decliners, materials losing about 0.2%. Staples down 0.5%, along with technology off of by 0.5%.
All right, a lot of red there, and I got to say some of my gainers were more in the green earlier today. Take Five Below, up almost 9% at its highs today, finishing the day with just a gain of about 0.7%, so well off its best levels of the session. Discount retailer, we broke the earnings after the close last night, did report fourth quarter results that beat expectations. Still, some analysts are cautious about the outlook. We got some more earnings.
Yeah, we have FedEx reporting, of course, a bellwether for the economy. Let's start with the third quarter adjusted EPS, $4.51, missing the consensus estimate by 6 cents. The operating margin for the third quarter was 6.8%, also below the expected 7.06%. Revenue for the period, $22.2 billion. That was higher than anticipated. FedEx is progressing its FedEx Freight spinoff preparation, so that is still moving as planned. As for the full year outlook, adjusted EPS will be $18 to $18.60 a share. Previously, it saw $19 to $20, so that probably accounts for the 2.9% drop you're seeing in after-hours trading.
Yeah, I just want to mention some commentary. The company saying our revised earnings outlook reflects continued weakness and uncertainty in the U.S. industrial economy, which is constraining demand for our business-to-business services. They say, despite this uncertainty, I'm confident we are well positioned to execute on our transformation. But, you know, once again, we're getting commentary certainly about the economy. And as you guys said, stock is down here in the post-market, down about 3%. Company also saying sees fiscal year adjusted EPS $18 to $18.60 a share. It had seen $19 to $20 a share. So again, now the stock down more than 4%. So that's kind of a negative tone, to say the least. All right, I'm going to go back to some gainers. There were a few. Meta Platforms, again, up about 4.5% at its highs today, finishing with just a gain of about 1/3 of 1%. You can just see the negative tone in the market, even after stocks that were rallying earlier in the session. Not quite sure why, although we did see Meta AI's intelligent chat function is going to be rolled out across 21 overseas territories and available in 6 European languages, according to a statement. So they continue to spread that out. And then Darden did hold on to most of its gains, up about 6% here at the close, did hit a 52-week high today. Company saying on the conference call that its implied fourth quarter guidance includes comp sales growth above 3%, which is ahead of the consensus view of 2.3%. Keep in mind, the stock was up more than 8%, but still, Tim, finishing with a gain of just shy of 6% today.
Okay, you got the gainers, I got the decliners today. Had to do some last-minute shuffling because of a little buying toward the end of the day, but no worries, everything's in the red still. Apple down by 0.5 percentage point today. It was down more earlier in the session, but we saw some buying late into the close. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reported that Apple is undergoing this rare executive shakeup when it comes to AI. Mike Rockwell is taking over Siri and reporting to software chief Craig Federighi, removing Siri and AI's head from his command. So that's a rare executive shakeup there. Investors sending shares down by about 0.5 percentage point today, down 14.5% so far this year. Want to take a look also at what happened with Accenture today. We'll do that in a second. Starting with D-Wave, though. D-Wave Quantum down 18% today. Quantum computing shares sank today. This after industry leaders spoke at the NVIDIA GTC event. Jensen Huang was there as well. It's part of this chip makers week-long conference. Remember, in January, Huang sparked a sell-off in quantum computing related stocks after saying, quote, very useful quantum computers were probably decades away. The comments today didn't help the quantum stocks that much. Once again, D-Wave Computing down about 18%. And finally, what happened with Accenture today is really interesting. In the commentary that we got, shares fell by more than 7% today. These are ADRs after the company reported a slowdown in its U.S. government work due to DOGE cuts, including a decrease in new procurement actions amid President Trump's spending crackdown. Accenture anticipates ongoing uncertainty in its government work as the administration's priorities evolve, and it's updated its risk factors to include the risks inherent in government contracting and the government contracting environment.
Yeah, there's like two sides, right? You got the FedEx, which is reflecting the macro business environment, and then you have the specifics from companies that have been hurt by that. Okay, let's go to the bond market. Nothing happening. It was a snoozer, but a little bit of buying in the front end. That was the best I can get for you. 10-year yield, though, quite interesting. So Ira Jersey of Bloomberg Intelligence was saying, look, we probably put in the high for the 10-year. We just need to find the bottom for the 10-year, but the action now, because of the economic conditions and the Fed, is really going to come in the 2-year. So watch that space.
All right, got to look for some stories that kind of make us happy today. And it certainly here's a story that made a worker over in Canada really happy. His name is Charles Coffey. He's 81. He's a former Royal Bank of Canada executive. He's been there for a long, long time. Turns out he won the top prize in the Ontario lottery. And Tim, that meant a fair amount of money.
He first thought he'd won only $25,000 Canadian. But then he got his glasses, he took a closer look.
Oh my goodness, so sweet.
It was actually $25 million Canadian, which, quick math, $17.4 million US. He's 81 years old, and he's long talked about what he's done with philanthropy and giving, and he said this gives him an opportunity to support causes, but first he's going to take his kids or his family on vacation.
I love that. Is he going to take them out of Canada or stay in Canada?
Probably not in the U.S.
Yeah, given what's
just
happening.
Paraphrasing.
But that's a great story. It's a feel-good story, and I think we all need feel-good stories right now.
Agreed. What do you guys got?
What do we have?
Oh, Finland.
Oh,
this is yours.
Yes.
Yeah, Finland. So apparently,
this is a regular thing.
Finland has been ranked as the world's happiest country for an 8th year. U.S. falling to
24th
24,
place,
25.
lowest
ever level.
But look at that chart, right? For those on radio, number 1, Finland, number 2, Denmark, number 3, Iceland, number 4, Sweden. What do they all have in common? They're all in the Nordic region.
Yeah, which is weird because it's cold there.
Yeah, but they have that, was it Hygge?
They also have
the coziness
They also
factor.
have a pretty robust capital markets, right? So you actually can get like innovation and technology companies, like a lot of the small ones, like are also from there, which is actually just
And they have
cool.
a social safety net too, provided by the state.
All right, let's go.
What about the weather, though? What about the weather?
Chilly.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Long
we agree
nights.
with you.
Long
we agree
nights.
with you. Yeah.
Long winters.
But they're still happy.
Just one last thing. Did you see that believing that others will return your lost wallet is like a key indicator of figuring out like happiness or a population happiness?
But they don't use cash anymore, right? Don't they all use
Maybe that's why it makes them
Bitcoin and
happier.
crypto and electronic
you got
money?
IDs in there, those stupid coupons you put in there.
Maybe.
All right, guys.
Everyone likes coupons.
I'm a little bit happier right
On
now
your phone,
because of
though.
these stories. All right, we got to go. That's a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it The Closing Bell. We'll see you again. Same time, same place tomorrow.